Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Pinnacle of English. In today's video, we are going to discuss a very good lesson called Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom, which is taken from the autobiography of Nelson Mandela in class 10 CBSE board. Dear friends, if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it. Click on like button, click on share button as bell button, and share with your friends who are in need of this lesson to understand for board examination. Now let's see the introduction of this lesson, Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom. Now this chapter is an extract from the autobiography of Nelson Mandela. Was born on 18th July 1918 and became the first president of South Africa. He really struggled a lot to achieve his success, to help the Africans to get the freedom. These experts from Long Walk to Freedom include a description of the inauguration ceremony. And this ceremony was done after getting freedom in South Africa. Many legend people, great people, freedom fighters who gave their speech in that. His journey to being a freedom fighter, the struggle along with a tribute to other freedom fighters and even countless other people who really fought to achieve this grand success called freedom in South Africa. Now, Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom. In South Africa especially, a brutal practice named apartheid system which was going on since long, and all Africans were following. There was a great description between the blacks and the white. And this system, apartheid system, was just on the basis of their race. It was one of the most brutal societies where dark-skinned people were deprived of their basic rights. In social science also, many students have learnt about Nelson Mandela and even the condition of South Africans. White people, no doubt they were having their minority, but they were having their majority. The blacks, they were having their majority, but they were not having any rights. So they were having their separate places, separate things to follow. Even they cannot enter the white area, even the white people cannot enter into the black people area. This lesson gives us an overview as to how Nelson Mandela, along with others, carved their way to society where there will be no discrimination on the basis of their color, caste, race, age, or gender. It involved speeches by the president and two other deputy presidents, who followed by an impressive air show of fighter jets and helicopters. So, air show, helicopters and jets were flown, and based on the color of their flag, there were 5 colors, right? And based on the colors were also clearly shown in the air. More than 140 countries' leaders attended this ceremony. So first of all, Mr. de Klerk was there, and he was sworn in as the second president of South Africa. Then Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as the first deputy president of this country. Nelson Mandela was sworn in as the first black president of South Africa. So long ago, in the first decade of the 20th century, white supremacy introduced the system of apartheid and made life a living hell for the dark-skinned population. So when Nelson Mandela was was a child, he was not in understanding of what exactly the freedom is. So he was child, he did not understand about the apartheid system, he did not understand about the freedom. But when he grew up, he understood that his family members, even brothers, father, mother, cousins, even they did not have the freedom to move here and there. So he realized that freedom is important, and then he decided to give freedom to the Africans. So he dedicated his entire life to give the freedom to the Africans. So it gave rise to one of the most inhuman societies of the world. Many people have struggled a lot and they sacrificed their life and even for their basic human rights. The author expressed his desire to thank all those freedom fighters who couldn't live to see the autumn day. So it was 10th March, autumn season, right? It was right time to celebrate this Freedom Day. We can say freedom ceremony. He referred to the citizens as the greatest asset of the country. So many freedom fighters were there. They gave their life, they dedicated their life to give the freedom of the country, but not all to remember for a long time who devoted their life to get this achievement, to get this freedom. In our country, India also, many freedom fighters who gave their life, they sacrificed their life to achieve this success as freedom. But we know some. There were so many names whom we don't know. Now let's go ahead with this story. It is these people, he gathered his courage from Mandela, believes that courageous is not the man who is fearless, but the man who has overcome fear. So fear was in everyone's heart, those who were black. But here Nelson Mandela, he did not lose his courage. He fought for the nation. Even he struggled a lot. Even the apartheid system took him to the jail, and he spent his 28 years, long time in jail. Not only he, his colleagues, his friends were also there with him, and they gave a lot of support to give achievement, to give this freedom to this nation. He also mentioned the two responsibilities every human has, and how in order to fulfill his obligation towards the society, his obligation toward his family was neglected. So each human is having two obligations, two duties in his or her life. That is number one, to look after the family, and second is to look after the nation. So Nelson Mandela did not choose to look after the family. He chose the one called look after the nation. So it is not everybody's cup to handle the entire nation. So for that, one has to leave the responsibility of the family and go ahead to take the responsibility of the nation. He became a man of people when he realized that the idea of freedom was an illusion for him and people like him. The freedom was just like an illusion, but for him and even the people like also like him. It was then he joined the African National Congress and fought for his rights till he became the first president of the nation. According to him, the oppressor is as much a prisoner as the oppressor. As soon as the farmer robs the oppressed of their freedom, he himself gets robbed of his humanity. And thus, the oppressor too is not free. Now, let's see NCERT question answers which are very important for board examination. Let's discuss. Where did the ceremony take place? Can you name any public buildings in India that are made of sandstone? The ceremonies took place in the campus of the Union Building of Pretoria, the Parliament House in New Delhi, the Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi, the Supreme Court in India in New Delhi, and Madras High Court in Chennai are some examples of Indian public buildings that are made of sandstone. Next, question number 2. Can you say how 10 May is an autumn day in South Africa? Very important question. 10th May is an autumn day in South Africa because on this day there was the largest gathering of international leaders on South African soil for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. Question number 3 is, at the beginning of Nelson Mandela's speech, he mentions an extraordinary human disaster. What does he mean by this? And what is the glorious human achievement he speaks of at the end? Answer of this question is, by human disaster, Mandela means to say that colored people have suffered a lot due to discrimination in the hands of white. So there was a discrimination between the blacks and the white. Even the white cannot enter into the area of the blacks, and the black people cannot enter into the area of the white. So there was a huge discrimination which the black people had to suffer, and the discrimination was in hands of the white people. He considered it as great glorious human achievement that a black people became the president of a country where the blacks are not considered as human beings and are treated badly. So the black people were not given any high authority. In the high authority, only the white people were there, and they were treated very badly. So it was a glorious achievement, human achievement. A black person became the president of the country where the blacks are not concerned or considered as human beings, and they are treated very badly in Africa. Question number 4. What does Mandela thank the international leaders for? Mandela felt privileged to be the host to the nations of the world because not too long ago the South Africans were considered outlaws. He thus thanked all the international leaders for having come to witness his investiture as president, since this event could be considered as a common victory for justice, for peace, and even for human dignity. Question number 5 is, what ideals does he set out for the future of South Africa? Answer of this question is, Mandela set out his ideals, his ideas of poverty, alleviation, removal of suffering of people. He also set the ideal for a society where there could be no discrimination based on gender or racial origins. So when it was his time to give his speech as the first black president of the country, he gave a very good speech, and in his speech he said very clearly he wanted to remove the poverty of the country. Even those people who were suffering regarding this caste, creed, gender, and all these things must be removed from the nation. He even also set the ideal for a society where there would be no discrimination based on gender and even for racial origins. Now we come to very good question. Think about language. What do the military generals do? How has their attitude changed and why? Because there were some military generals, but before getting the freedom, Nelson Mandela was treated very badly. They were not treating him very well, and even Nelson Mandela himself was black, so he was treated very badly by these military generals. But after the ceremony, they were all respecting him. Now let's see. The highest military generals of the South African Defence Force and police saluted Nelson Mandela and pledged their loyalty. Their attitude towards the blacks had taken great change. Instead of arresting a black, they saluted him. So, before the freedom, military generals were not treating Nelson Mandela, right? But after becoming the first president of the country, all the military generals were saluting him. Next question. Why were two national anthems sung? On the day of the inauguration, two national anthems were sung. One by the whites and the other by the blacks. The reason behind it was the black people and the white people, they were having their own national anthems because they were having their discrimination between the black and the white. So they were having their own national anthem and they were following it when they did not get the freedom. So it was the time, or it was on the day of inauguration, where two national anthems were sung because Nelson Mandela did not want to create any discrimination between the blacks and the white. So he wanted to create equality between the both blacks and the white people. So this symbolized the equality of the blacks and the whites. Next question. How does Mandela describe the systems of the government in his country? Number one, in the first decade and in the final decade of the 20th century. So, in the first decade of the 20th century, the white-skinned people of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial discrimination against the dark-skinned people of their own land, thus creating the basis of one of the harshest and most inhuman societies the world had ever known. So, in the first decade of the 20th century, the white-skinned people were there in South Africa, and they were patching up the differences between and creating the system of racial discrimination against the black people. Though they were living in the same land, they were creating this discrimination. In the last decade of the 20th century, the previous system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all the people regardless of the color of their skin. So that was the description or the difference between the first decade and the final decade of the 20th century. So this is also a very important question to write for the board examination. What does courage mean to Mandela? Very good question. As a life skill. And all those who read the autobiography of Nelson Mandela, they have to understand what exactly the courage means to Mandela, and we have to inculcate in our life. For Mandela, courage does not mean the absence of fear, but a victory over the fear. Courage does not mean that there should not be an absence of a fear, but there must be a victory over fear. So, according to him, brave man need not be fearless, but should be able to conquer the fear. So we can see the struggle comes one after the other in everyone's life, but it does not mean that we do not have fear. We have fear, but we have to learn that how to overcome the fear, and that is called courage, according to Nelson Mandela. The next question is, that is done. Which does he think is natural, to love or to hate? For Mandela, love comes from more naturally to the human heart than hate. So love should come from the heart. There should not be any hate. There should not be any hatred from anyone's heart. So love comes from the heart, and it is in our nature to share our life, share our love with others. What twin obligations does Mandela mention? What are the two obligations does Mandela mention in his life? Mandela mentions that every man has two obligations. The first is to look after his family, parents, wife, and children. And the second obligation is to his people, his community, and even his country. What did being free man to Mandela as a boy and as a student? How does he contrast these transitory freedoms with the basic and honorable freedoms? So answer of this question is, like any other kid for Mandela, also the freedom meant a freedom to make merry and enjoy the blissful life. Freedom means to make our life happy. We should enjoy our life. So once everybody becomes an adult, then antics of childhood looks like transitory, because most of the childish activity is wasteful from an adult's perspective. So when we are children, right, we do all the childish activity in our childhood life. But when we become adult, we understand this is what a wasteful form of an adult perspective. As per the idea of adult, this is a waste. Once you are adult, then someday you have to earn a livelihood to bring the back and home. Then you only get an honorable existence in the family and in the society. So when we become adults, someday we have to earn our livelihood. It means that after getting our education, after getting our degree, we search for a job, we search for an institution, we search for an industry to get a job. And when we get a job, we understand that we have to earn our livelihood to bring the back and home. Right? So we understand an honorable existence in the family and even the society. What does Mandela think? The oppressor is free. Why and why not? Mandela does not feel that oppressor is free because, according to him, an oppression is a prisoner of hatred. Who is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. He feels that both the oppressor and the oppressed are robbed of their humanity. So, Mandela is not feeling that the oppressor is free, because as per his point of view, oppressor is a prisoner of hatred and who is locked behind the bars of the prejudice and even narrow-mindedness. Even he feels that both the oppressor and the oppressed are robbed of their humanity. Thinking about the text, why did such a large number of international leaders attend the inauguration? What did it signify, the triumph of? Answer of this question is, the presence of large number of international leaders was a gesture of solidarity from international community to the idea of the end of apartheid system. This signified the triumph of good over evil, the triumph of the idea of a tolerant society without any discrimination. So, gathering of large number of international leaders means a gesture of solidarity from the international community to the idea of the end of apartheid system. So the other leaders from different nations, they came over there to show that there is an end of apartheid system. They also know, and that kind of apartheid system should not be in their nations also. It signified the triumph of good over evil. So apartheid system was not good. So there was, we can say, the victory over the evil, the triumph of the idea of a tolerant society. I'm talking about the black people. And the idea of a triumph over the idea of a tolerant society without any discrimination. Question number 2 of thinking about the text. What does Nelson Mandela mean when he says he is simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before him? Nelson Mandela wants to pay his tribute to all the people who had sacrificed their lives for the sake of freedom, for the sake of the nation. He feels that he is the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before him, because those heroes of yesterday's years had paved the path of cooperation and unity for him. He wanted to show those people who sacrificed their lives for achieving the freedom. And he wanted to say that those African patriots who had gone, who left their life before him, because those heroes of yesterday's years had showed the way of cooperation and the unity for him. Therefore, he got the support of his people to be able to come to power to bring equality for his own people. Next question. Would you agree that the depths of oppression create heights of character? How does Mandela illustrate this? Can you add your own examples to this argument? Yes, I agree that the depths of the oppression create heights of character. Nelson Mandela illustrates this by giving examples of great heroes of South Africa who sacrificed their lives in the long freedom struggle. India is full of such examples. There were many heroes who sacrificed their life to achieve this freedom. Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, and many heroes who sacrificed their life to achieve this freedom. And now we are getting freedom. We are having freedom to speak, freedom to live here and there. During our freedom struggle, there was a galaxy of leaders, of great characters. Probably the oppression of British rule created so many men of such characters. If we compare this with the quality of political leaders in India is having today, then Nelson Mandela seems to be absolutely right. How did Mandela's understanding of freedom change with the age of experience? With age, Nelson Mandela realized that he had a lot of responsibilities of his people. He kept his responsibilities on his shoulder, his community, and even his country. As a boy, Nelson Mandela did not have a hunger for freedom because he thought that he was born free. He believed that as long as he obeyed his father and abided by the customs of his tribe, he was free in every possible manner. He had certain needs as a teenager and certain needs as a young man. Gradually, he realized that he was selfish during his boyhood. He slowly understands that it is not just his freedom and that is being curtailed, but freedom of all the blacks. It is after attaining his understanding that he develops a hunger for freedom of his people. Next question. How did Mandela's hunger for freedom change his life? How did Mandela's hunger for freedom change his life? Answer of this question is, Mandela realized in his youth that it was not just his freedom that was being curtailed, but the freedom of the blacks. The hunger for his own freedom became the hunger for the freedom of his people. This desire of a non-racial society transformed him to a virtuous and self-sacrificing man. Thus, he joined the African National Congress, and this changed him from a frightened young man into a bold man. So here we are ending our lesson with explanation, NCERT important question answers. I hope you have liked this video. Please don't forget to subscribe it. Click on like button. Click on bell button for notification. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.